Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm Ffinlo Costain. Ben Thomas is a regenerative pasture-fed beef producer working at Treveddoe farm in Cornwall. He featured as a main character in the film 6 Inches of Soil, and in the new book of the film, Ben says that he has a passion for cows. I asked him why and where that passion came from.
Growing up, I always lived on a beef farm, so I've always worked with them. And I think as I've got older, though, and and started managing them specifically, they're just so hardy and have such a will to live compared to other farm animals. It makes them a lot more easier to work with, I guess. So it makes your job easier. And I don't know, they're just great animals. They've got great characters, haven't they? And I guess being at Treveddoe now and farming the way that we do here, you can sort of see the impact that they have on the land, and they bring such a benefit. For them being here on our farm, they bring so many other benefits along with them that they're doing so many good things as well. So yeah, they're just brilliant animals.
You talked about growing up on the farm, and then of course now you've got your own. You must be aware of the different characters of different breeds of cattle.
Yeah, totally. So I've worked in sort of large housed indoor dairy units to extensive dairy units, and then the same with beef, really sort of quite conventionally intense beef units, and we're now at the other end, extensive grazing, belted Galloways and red ruby Devons. So where I've ended up with the breeds that I have now are just in awe of them, how hardy they are, how tough they are, how they breeze through being outwintered. And they're not fussed about rain. They just get on with their job and they graze. And so you work with loads of these different breeds, and you can really see the full potential of what each can do. And for us, the belted Galloways and the Devons are they're so hardy and so tough, and they do so well on sort of minimal inputs that it means they're such a great fit for our business.
So you've worked in fully indoor and fully outdoor systems. Do you find that the cattle are easier to manage in one than the other?
I think for me, farming can be so simple, and we have just overcomplicated it so much with a lot of these systems. For me, cows they can graze grass really, really well and convert that to milk or meat. Running a simple system, but then being outdoors, we see really low sort of health problems. So we're never treating our cattle for pneumonia. We hardly ever see any cases of lameness. Where the cows, just because they're outside in their natural environment, we hardly see the vet. It's great, so in terms of it being easier, I think keeping them outside is a lot easier way of doing it. Yeah.
Now, cattle get a hard time in the press because of their methane emissions. What do you say to people who think that cows are bad for the climate and for nature?
When they say, they get a bit of a bad rap for their contribution to our sort of greenhouse gas emissions, but I think when we look at these things, our farming systems, in just that sort of carbon or methane lens, we're missing the bigger picture. And I sort of alluded to it earlier, but with cattle, they bring so many other things along with them. So we're not just in a climate crisis, we're in this biodiversity crisis as well. That's what I try to get across, is that and we're seeing nature plummet on farms across the UK. But where we've got our cattle extensively grazing our pastures, long rotations, a lot of different structure in the grass height in our fields, we're seeing there's so much more nature on our farms. And farming our cattle in this way, is really actually improving nature and improving biodiversity on our farm. And if you take them away because of the bad press that they're getting for their greenhouse gas emissions, then we'll lose all the benefits they bring to increasing biodiversity on farm as well. So you just cannot look at it through that one lens. Also, they're part of a cycle. Livestock animals, we're part of a cycle. The methane cycle, they really help the water cycle. They're cycles. The fossil fuels are, they're adding green emissions into the atmosphere, whereas the cattle is just part of this cycle that's been going on forever. So I think it just, people look at it into such a singular viewpoint instead of looking at the whole picture, I guess.
Over the last few months in Wales, there's been a lot of controversy about the idea of increasing the amount of woodland on farms. Now, woodland is intrinsic to your system. What are the benefits of woodland?
I think because we practice mob grazing on our farm. We move our cows every day through summer and winter. Because they're kept in smaller areas, instead of letting them have the whole field, we subdivide with electric, and they have these smaller areas. That's great for your grassland management. However, for animal welfare, they can, when we're having these like extremes of heat in the summer, when we had those 40-degree Celsius days a couple of years ago, and then on the flip side, in the winter, you might have a driving wind from the south or from the north, and it could be 0, -5 degrees. Animal welfare can be implicated if they have no shade and shelter. So that's where the trees come in on our farm, in the forms of hedgerows, in the forms of shelter from the existing woodland. And then looking forward, the agroforestry system we're going to implement, we're designing that so that the cows, no matter where they graze across the farm, they'll always have shade and shelter. So for us, it's really helping animal welfare in terms of shade and shelter. Following on from that, there's browse, so they can get extra minerals from the different trees from different times of year. Willow and oak, they absolutely love those. And then you've also got the sort of biodiversity angle as well. You're creating more habitat on farm as well. So I think it just adds all up really neatly as a great package to really help push the welfare of our system, and it creates a better end product, doesn't it?
It's been 3 years since 6 Inches of Soil was filmed. How have things gone for you? Has anything changed?
I think so. The cattle's been really great. That hasn't surprised. Our buyers are, they're after more beef than ever. So I see a great future for how we're producing our beef, and would love to expand that. We have tried to introduce pigs into the woodland and across some of our pastures and orchards, but we're finding that a bit tricky with sourcing sort of feed that aligns with how we manage our cattle. So our cows are 100% pasture fed, and then you can bring these pigs onto the farm, and then you're kind of buying feed from the local merchant that is not full of great stuff imported from all around the world. So we're trying to align the pigs with the cattle, and that's been quite a challenge. So we haven't quite got that going yet. But yeah, I guess the other thing was we've also welcomed the arrival of our son Ted a few weeks ago. So that's definitely changed things up a bit.
Has that changed the way that you see the world and your role on the farm at all?
Definitely think, safety, number one. Wow, you're thinking about that more than ever. But also, my wife Claudia is not from farming, and she's always loved getting us off farm to do other things, so having time off farm is really important in our relationship. And I think that's the beauty of our system, and I think it's highlighting it even more now that we can go out and check our cows, move them onto fresh pasture, and be done within half an hour easily, and then we're off to the beach for the rest of the day. And we get these lucky weekends, we've got brilliant weather, and we're like, right, we've got Ted, let's go to the beach for the day. We've done the cattle, we can just go. I haven't got to be sat on a tractor making my first cut silage, because I need to produce all of that so I can feed my cattle when they're in the sheds over winter. I haven't got to worry about it. It's just so simple. And at the end of the day, as much as I love farming, I still love going to the beach or seeing friends and playing rugby, for example. So you want to be doing all those things, and we've really designed our system here so we can do that as well.
Now, Ben, we've talked about natural cycles and regeneration. What is it for you that makes your farm a regenerative farm?
I think for us, it's not using chemical inputs to build soil fertility. We are using our cattle and the rotation, long rest periods, to build soil fertility, and then therefore future resilience of the farm. And I think that we build soil fertility. We're then building like animal health, plant health. The diversity comes through in the soil from that. The diversity comes through in the different species in our grassland, and then biodiversity. I think all these things build up when you build the soil fertility. So I think that's where the regenerative angle comes from. As we look after that, what's under the ground, and everything will build from that, and we will hopefully, bringing more space back onto the farm for nature at the same time as us producing food.
Now, just finally, you sell direct to customers and to butchers. Not all farmers can do that. So what advice would you offer to farmers working in conventional beef systems who are perhaps becoming interested in transitioning to regenerative?
I think in terms of guidance, I think find a really good local butcher that you can work with and supply, and if you do have a cow, a steer or a heifer that you can send into there, the best piece of advice is to go in there when they're butchering it, to see how they're doing it and receive feedback from them on your carcass. Because how often do people load up a trailer load of cattle, send them off to the abattoir, and then they'll just get their kill sheets back? But when you've got an actual butcher cutting up the different cuts and giving you feedback, there's nothing else like that, I don't think. And then that can help you tweak things on farm. So, perhaps you want to add a bit more fat cover onto it, or, maybe that's where you can look at different breeds, more native breeds as well, to help improve the quality of the beef that you're producing. Because I think that native breeds really lend themselves to selling direct to consumer, because they're slower growing, they've more flavour, and then therefore it's a better product, and customers want that better product for them to come back and buy again. So you've got to get that right first, and the butchers can really help you get to do that, to then be able to make that transition and make it a bigger part of your business. So I think that'd be my key, really. And also, it's great having your own beef back and trying it, cooking it on the barbecue, cooking up some steak on the barbecue. It's so rewarding, and it probably motivates you to push on with it further as well.
So are you lucky enough to have a small abattoir nearby?
Yeah, we are. We've got Lobs, they're called, down tiny little abattoir down just under 20 minutes away. I think my granddad actually helped set it up years and years ago. And you drop the cattle off, they go into these lovely little old stone barns, and it's just really quiet and chilled. You're in the middle of the countryside, you're not in a town setting, and customers really value that, as do we as well. It makes that whole, you give them a respectful life, but you also need to give them a respectful death, and that taking them to that abattoir is massively important to us, to keep that. And keep those guys going and using them and making sure that they've got a sustainable future, because we can't afford to lose that little abattoir. So they're massively important to our future success, really. So
that was Ben Thomas from Treveddoe Farm, and the book of the film, 6 Inches of Soil, is now available across the UK. More news on our website, 8.9.com. That's all for now. We're back soon. Thanks for watching.